Welcome to part 2 of Third World to First World. Who protects you? Let's provide a little history about how and why the police force was created. In England, the Metropolitan Police Act of 1829 created the first modern police force known as the Metropolitan Police Service, or the Met. The Met was established to combat rising crime in London and was made up of uniformed officers who were trained and paid by the government. Other countries followed suit and established their own police forces in the decades that followed. In the United States, the first organized police force was established in Boston in 1838. However, it was not until the late 19th and early 20th centuries that police departments became widespread across the country. Interestingly enough, the widespread notion of the police as a method of law enforcement coincided with slave patrols, were a form of law enforcement in the United States that were established during the colonial period and continued through the Civil War era. Their primary purpose was to maintain control over enslaved people and prevent them from escaping or rebelling against their owners. Slave patrols consisted of white males who were authorized by law to stop, search, and interrogate anyone they suspected of being a runaway slave. After the Civil War and the abolition of slavery, many southern states created new laws known as black codes, which were designed to restrict the freedom and mobility of African Americans. These laws empowered law enforcement officials to arrest and punish black people for minor offenses, such as loitering, vagrancy, and not having a job. The black codes essentially created a new form of slavery, and law enforcement officials were tasked with enforcing these laws. In the late 19th and 20th centuries, police departments in the United States began to adopt a more professional and centralized model of law enforcement. However, the legacy of slave patrols and black codes continued to influence policing policies, particularly in the southern states. Police officers were often recruited from the ranks of former slave patrols and were socialized into a culture of white supremacy. Throughout the 20th century, police departments across the United States were involved in numerous incidents of racial violence and discrimination, including the use of excessive force against people of color and the creation of segregated police units. These practices were justified by a narrative of maintaining law and order and protecting white communities from perceived threats. Sounds familiar? Today, it's clearly still an issue, and addressing the legacy of slavery and racism in law enforcement needs to constantly be reviewed as it raises its ugly, monstrous heads on a daily basis. If the police was not initially created to protect people of color, and there's still so much justified mistrust, then who would rely on to protect us? How do we safely exercise our Second Amendment right to protect self and family? How does our first world experience coincide and compare to that of third world countries? And if you like what you see and hear, please like, share, and subscribe, and hit that notification bell to know when more content is posted. And remember, please join us live at 8 p.m. every Saturday as we present interesting topics on this channel, 2 AlphaLife, with Armel771 and me, CC Mommy 75.